Hello YouTube, today we're doing a review of a method of training. It's technically not a program and the name is Transcendent training, alright? So this is not a very well-known method of training. There's not many videos about it, which is why I wanted to make one. Please keep in mind that I will be talking about hypertrophy and muscle gain and not necessarily strength or athletic purposes. So what is transcendent training? The idea is to get 100 reps with one exercise. That's basically the gist of it. There are two ways to do that type of training. One, you start with a weight you can already rep 100 times and you increase the weight. Or two, you start with a weight you can only do 20 times and you get it to 100 reps. I will start by saying that we will not be discussing the first method. Why? Because the first method is most of the time prescribed in a Bulgarian light or Wisconsin method style protocol, meaning you do it every day. If you do it every day and you stay with the same weight and you slowly improve the weight to stay within the 100 rep range, to me, it immediately shows that you're doing a ton of work outside of any interesting intensity rep range window. So it's not as useful. And because you're doing it Wisconsin method style, it also implies that this is the only thing you're doing during the day. I've already made a video about Wisconsin method and Bulgarian light if you're interested, where I explain why the program is not good for hypertrophy. So if you want to go check that out, that's another 30-minute video. It's up to you. But we will not be talking about that when it comes to transcendent training. For transcendent training, we will only be talking about picking a weight that you can only rep 20 times and trying to get that to 100 reps. So, right off the bat, what does it make you think about when you talk about a method like this with such high reps? For me, I immediately thought about Widowmaker squats, which is very high volume squats where you basically pick a weight, you can only squat 12 times, and you try to get it to 30 reps or even more. So there is this similarity here. And in a sense, it would give a lot of credit to the method because Widowmaker squats work. They work extremely well for hypertrophy. I don't know if they work for strength, but for hypertrophy, yes, they do work. So, the method, especially with squats, works because you rest at the top. And it's the same for the transcendent training style, meaning that you're not doing 100 reps as fast as you can. Most of the time, you will be resting in between the reps, and that's what people who do fully squats do. The reason why it's doable with squats is because the part of the squat that is the most taxing is at the bottom. So the action of doing the squat is taxing. The action of standing with the bar while not being super fun, especially when you're tired, is not taxing for the muscle of the quads and the posterior chain. So you can recover a bit and then go and continue the set. The idea is that you don't re-rack the bar until the set is over. And it's the same for the transcendent training method. You're not supposed to rest in between the reps by racking the bar. But we'll see why that becomes a problem later. So, because of that, I've already told you that it's going to eliminate a ton of lifts. You will not be able to do pulls from the floor with it, in my opinion. Why? Well, because if the weight is set up on the floor waiting for you to do another rep, then you can cheat. You can wait as much as you want in between reps. So it sort of defeats the entire purpose of a method of training that forces you to push your limits, right? And it's going to be the same for anything where you set the weight down. So it would work for curls, for example. because even if you're not letting go of the weight, you're still holding the weight in between curls. And you already should see here why that's going to be a massive problem, because there are certain lifts, especially upper body lifts, that are going to be limited by your forearms, meaning that doing Romanian deadlifts for 100 reps is very possible, but not with a double overhand grip and not even with a mixed grip. So you're gonna have to use straps. Now, I'm not anti-straps, I use straps all the time. The issue you will encounter with straps if you try to do very high reps is that the straps will start cutting into your wrists and they're going to start cutting the circulation of your blood in your hands. That usually happens if you do anything over 30 or 40 reps, and it can become a problem because it's painful and it can potentially lead to not anything massive, but it can be damaging for your health. So anything like rack pulls, anything like Romanian deadlift can become a problem because of that. So you will be doing that transcendent training with lifts that force you to finish the rep after a positive phase with the weight resting on you or in your hands. And that is going to improve mental gains, meaning it's going to make you mentally stronger. You will read testimonies of people who say they started with a weight they could only get for 20 reps, and the next session they got 40 reps. Did they get twice as strong in that amount of time? No. What got stronger is their mental fortitude. They were able to push past their mental limitations to get more and more and more reps. In a sense, it's a good thing. I would also argue it's a bad thing because you don't really know how much strength and hypertrophy you're getting. Because a lot of what you're getting is just spirit strength. So, but I also argue that it works for hypertrophy. And the reason why it works is because it's essentially high volume training. And volume is what drives hypertrophy. So when you do 100 reps, what you're really doing is you're doing a 10 by 10 with no rest in between. Is that inferior to 10 by 10? Would the ability to rest in between sets be better? I would argue that yes. But the entire idea behind transcendent training is that pushing through very high reps is what makes the program work. So I'm not going to argue with that. Maybe there is a hidden secret that happens when you really push your limits in one set. So we've established what it is, we've established what it's going to be doing for you as a whole, and the lifts you're going to be able to use for that. What is it going to do to your body? Well, it's going to make you super sore because it's high volume training, and there's a high chance that people who start that type of training never did high volume before, so they're going to be extremely sore. For the most part, you can be sore for 4 or 5 days, maybe an entire week. The issue with that is that people who don't do high volume on the regular have a tough time pushing through soreness to go back to train. So this is going to be something that might put you out of commission for a long time. There's also the issue of form breakdown. Unless you're really underestimating the amount of weight you should be moving for 100 reps, there are tons of exercises where your form is going to really start to degrade. And because you're using sub-maximal weight, it's not going to be injurious in the moment, but it can cause overuse injuries as time goes by because you're grinding through reps that you shouldn't be grinding. And it also will lead to the same effect that I explained in the Wisconsin method, where it will become lower body dominant. You're going to have a lower body bias when you do that type of program. Why? Because doing high reps and moving relatively heavy weight is much easier with your lower body. So you're going to be doing a ton of squats and a ton of pulls. And what's going to happen to your physique is that you're not going to be working your upper body, which already requires you to work it, for most people, much more than your lower body to grow. and you're going to be completely unbalanced. We've entered the age, and that's something that I've noticed and that I will repeat a lot in my videos. We stopped being so arm obsessed, and bro training was replaced by powerlifting bro training, which is just as bad. Instead of being super focused on their chest and arms, guys are super focused on their posterior chains and legs. It's still not balanced. It might be better as far as injuries goes and strength, but as far as bodybuilding goes, it's awful. So, outside of that, the lifts that you will be able to do with your upper body, if you think about it, with that type of style, are very limited because bench press, you're going to have to need a spotter, or you're going to have to need to have spots on the side. And it is personally my opinion that in a lift like the bench, the resting position with your arm extended is much harder to maintain than just standing with the bar on your back or standing with the bar in your hands. Because it's going to tire you out. This position is not a resting position in the bench, it's tiring. So most of what I've seen people do with Transcendent training and upper body is they do fluff, they do cable stuff. And again, the issue with cable stuff is you can rest in between your reps as much as you want. So is it really applying the system you want? I don't think so. I've heard claims that it reduces body fat in the area that you target. Maybe. I've never tried the system myself. I'm not going to say it's a false claim, but because it's going to be a system that's very easy to apply for lower body lifts, that could be a nice application of the program if certain people have a lot of body fat in their lower body. And now we get to the point where I sort of attack the program for its flaws, where you would think that doing 100 reps with heavy weight is super brave and like it's badass and you're pushing yourself. In my opinion, it's lazy. Because yes, you're doing 100 reps at once, but that's all you're doing. You're doing 100 reps. If you did a proper volume day, you would be doing much more than 100 reps. And you would be moving more weight at the end of the workout. So really, the only advantage of the system would be that mental fortitude thing that you gain pushing through the reps when you're in pain. But you can also get that with the higher reps in like the 8 to 12 range. And I've seen people make that and present that as a positive of the program, saying, oh, you come in and you do your warm-up 100 reps and then you go home. Well, it means that you're doing a ton of volume in one area of your body. That's not going to wield any very interesting hypertrophy benefits, in my opinion. And that's the question that it raises too, is why not only do high volume and do it in the right intensity too? Because if you can do 100 reps with a weight, it's completely different than doing 30 or 35 reps with the Widowmaker. 100 reps, you're entering an intensity that is not challenging to you. It's not challenging if you do 20 reps or 30 reps. And in my opinion, for natural hypertrophy, you should stay within a certain intensity window. You don't want to be all the way there because you're doing junk volume. You're doing very easy reps with non-challenging weights. So in my opinion, that's a bad part of that particular style of training. It's not intense enough. And if someone likes me, who does tons of volume and never goes really low reps, tell you your volume is not intense enough, you should, I think, pay notice. So now that I told you what I don't like about it and what it should be replaced with, I will tell you what it's good for. I think for mental strength, it might be good. That being said, I would not advise people who have never done volume to try this as their first taste of high volume, because you're going to burn yourself out and your recovery might not take it well, you might get sick. So I think this is really good for people who have had very high work capacity in the past and they want to build it back very fast. I think that doing cycles of transcendent training can be very good. To finish up, I will say that a lot of people who will embrace that type of training are people who want to try something new, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to try a new method and it's fun and you enjoy it, please do it. Know that this is not enough for hypertrophy, because you're going to focus too much on one body part at a time, and a bodybuilding program, an hypertrophy program, should be taking the entire body in considerations and moving the intensity and volume around so that everything gets covered. In a sense, you could use that to have one body part that is lacking in particular catch up, but the issue I see with this is that body parts that are lagging already respond very well to any amount of volume and isolation you give them. So if you just throw the entire farm at them, you might get injured, you might shoot your recovery in the foot. So that was my critique of Transcendent training. You might have never heard of it before, there's a strong chance. Let me know what you thought, let me know if it's something you would do. And if you're someone who did it, I would be very interested to hear your feedback. Thank you, have a good day.